Where on earth are you, woman? Everybody is waiting and the dinner table isn't even prepared. The thunder of her husband's voice echoed through the apartment, making Vian recoil so sharply she almost lost her grip on the crystal bowl. On December the 23rd at 5 minutes to 10 in the evening, the guests were all seated in the living room, boisterous and expectant. Meanwhile, she was still rushing around the kitchen, desperately trying to add the final touches to the very last dish. "Are you incapable of ever being on time?" Kalen bellowed as he stormed into the kitchen. He reeked of costly cologne and Hennessy, having already had some drinks with his friends, all while she had been slaving away over the hot stove. Vian remained silent, simply wiping her worn hands clean on her apron, and lifted the serving platter of cured meats. 42 years of age, 15 of them married to this man, and every single holiday was pure torment. But tonight would be the final time she endured this. She had already firmly made her decision. "Kaylin, darling, where is that little cook you have?" came the sharp voice of his mother, Miss Gwendolyn, drifting from the living room. "I warned you she wasn't any kind of proper hostess." Vian bit down on her lip, carrying the heavy platter towards the table. The gazes of the guests passed over her with complete indifference. No one noticed she had been standing for 2 full days without any sleep, that her hands were sore from chopping endless vegetables, or that her back was in agony from lugging 8 heavy grocery sacks up the stairs all by herself. Finally, Kalen grunted, his eyes fixed elsewhere. "Get a move on and set it down, everyone is starving to death." 15 years back, life was not like this. Vian encountered Kaylon 6 months following the divorce from her first husband. She was 27 at the time, employed as a junior accountant at a downtown firm, and raising her 7-year-old girl, Imani. Kaylin seemed reliable, a dedicated entrepreneur who owned an auto body shop, a man that moved with an air of absolute self-assurance. He pursued her the right way with roses, expensive dinners, and vows to care for her and her young daughter. Their first year of marriage was acceptable, but then the warning signs appeared. It began with all the petty criticisms. The gumbo was overly salty, his dress shirts weren't pressed perfectly, their home wasn't impeccably clean. Vian just tried harder, assuming the problem was her. After Imani's 10th birthday, Kaylin announced, "Leave your job, why are you wasting time with that foolishness? I bring in plenty of money. You belong at home taking care of this house." But Vian resisted because she adored her work. She enjoyed having her own income, but Kaylon methodically applied pressure by instigating arguments, charging her with being a terrible mother and wife, claiming she was more devoted to her career than to her family. His mother would call her daily, lecturing on how a wife shames her family by working if her husband can provide for them. Vian finally surrendered and quit her job, which is when the living nightmare truly began. Without work, without a penny to her name, she was made utterly dependent. Kaylin doled out grocery money based on receipts, requiring an accounting of every single cent. If she ever asked for anything personal, her request was met with a look of absolute revulsion. "Why would you need a new shirt? You only sit around the house, nobody ever sees you." The insults piled up one by one. Vian never forgot a thing. A single memory in particular was etched into her soul. On her 37th birthday, 5 years back, Kaylin arrived home that night holding a wrapped gift. "Here, a gift." He carelessly tossed it onto the sofa. Vian unwrapped it, and then she froze. Tucked inside was a standard mop from the hardware store. "Is this a joke?" Her voice wavered. "What joke? It is a practical gift. This way you can scrub the floors better." Kaylin turned on the TV and stretched out on the sectional couch. "What were you expecting? Diamonds? You haven't earned those yet." She cried herself sick in the kitchen that night, while he watched the game, shouting at the officials. A week later, when his friends arrived for spades, he introduced her, saying, "Meet my live-in maid. Contributes nothing, but she keeps the house so clean." Every man there laughed out loud. Vian stood there holding a tray of sweet tea, feeling a part of her soul extinguish. The nickname stuck: the maid, the housekeeper, the hired help. Kalan no longer used her actual name when others were around, and the most terrifying part was that she began to accept it. She ceased arguing, ceased crying, simply enduring it all in silence. 3 years prior, he completely forgot their anniversary. Vian spent the entire day preparing a special romantic meal, buying him a costly watch with the small amount of money she had managed to set aside. She waited for him. Kalen staggered in at 11 p.m., completely drunk. "Right, the anniversary," he mumbled, noticing the candlelit table. "It slipped my mind. Whatever we can do it next year." He forgot the next year too, and the year before that one. Miss Gwendolyn just made things worse at 68 years old, a retired school principal, accustomed to disciplining everyone. In her eyes, Vian was unworthy of her son. "Kalen, you remember Monique Dubois," she would say directly in front of Vian. "She's the one you should have wed. Beautiful, intelligent, and owns her own salon in Buckhead now. And this one, nothing special to look at, nothing to contribute." Kalen stood silent, never defending her. That was the deepest cut. 4 years ago, Vian discovered her beloved emerald green dress, the one that always made her feel so beautiful, shredded in the trash bin. "Who did this?" she asked, her hands clutching the ruined fabric. "I did," he replied calmly. "A dress like that doesn't suit a heifer like you. You look absurd. You should go to the gym and tighten up that gut." At 5'5", Vian weighed only 135 pounds. She carried not 1 ounce of extra weight, but she began to believe something was truly wrong with her body. The late-night spectacles became routine. Kalen would arrive home at 2 a.m. intoxicated, rousing her from sleep to demand, "I am hungry. Get to the kitchen and make me something." Vian would rise and go fry eggs or heat leftovers. She would stand in the kitchen at 3 a.m. swaying with fatigue as he ate, his eyes glued to his phone. "Disgusting, too much salt," he'd declare, pushing his plate away. "You've forgotten how to cook." And she would have to start over. The breaking point occurred 3 months ago. Vian accidentally saw a string of texts on her husband's phone. Tanisha, age 28, a nail technician from the shop opposite his garage, with pictures of her wearing next to nothing. Intimate messages from Kalon, words he hadn't used with his wife in a decade. "Miss you, bae. Seeing you tonight. You are the finest sunshine. I can't wait to hold you." Vian read it all and shed no tears. Something inside her didn't shatter. It just turned to ice-frozen solid. She didn't say a word, didn't create a scene. She simply started digging. It turned out Tanisha was not the only one. There was Keisha, 32, a lounge manager, then Ebony, 25 of them from the parts store alone. Vian unearthed a harem she never knew existed, but the most crucial discovery she made was, on his personal computer, a trove of financial reports, shady schemes, and clear evidence of tax evasion. There were fake invoices for parts he bought for pennies and sold for triple the price as genuine OEM. As a CPA, Vian knew precisely what she was witnessing, and then she found one more document, a deed of gift for their shared condominium, which they had purchased together 12 years ago. 2 years back, Kalon had illegally signed it over to his mother without Vian's knowledge. She copied every incriminating document, saved them to a flash drive, emailed the files to herself, and then waited for the opportune moment. Preparations for the holiday meal commenced with a demand from Miss Gwendolyn in mid-December. "Vian, we are having the holiday dinner at your place this year. I'll be there, Kalen Shanice with her family, and Kalen's sons, about 15 people in all. Try to make something edible for a change. Last year your potato salad was dry as bone, all right," Vian quietly acknowledged. "And prepare a lavish table. Don't be so cheap. Kalen will give you money. I want king crab legs, shrimp, and oxtails. Prime rib, the best of everything, understand, and dress presentably. You looked like a street urchin last time, it's so embarrassing, especially in front of people." Vian hung up the phone with a faint smile. One final time, let this be the last feast she ever hosted for them. A truly unforgettable one. Kalen gave her $300 for food, generous by his metrics. Usually, he gave her $75 for a week and demanded receipts. "Just make sure everything is perfect, you hear? Do not embarrass me." "Understood." She spent the next 2 weeks in preparation. going to the market, choosing produce, and hauling heavy groceries. Kalen promised he would assist, but was always delayed at work or with his friends. Vian knew he was really with Tanisha, but she held her tongue. On December 21st, she rose at 6 a.m. and began cooking greens yams, mac and cheese, a large roast, 15 dishes in total. Her hands were cramping so painfully she wanted to weep from the strain. Her back was in agony, but she pushed onward. December 22nd brought more of the same. By nightfall, the fridge was packed solid. Kalen peeked in the kitchen, nodding slightly. "All right, just see that you don't burn nothin'," he remarked, and then left. On December 23rd, the morning began with a call from Miss Gwendolyn. "Vian, you do remember I don't eat mayonnaise, right? Make my salad separately with olive oil and don't prepare that heavy mac and cheese, it just bothers my stomach. Make a nice seafood salad instead, okay? And Shanice's husband is allergic to pecans, so make sure there ain't no nuts in desserts." Vian ended the call and returned to the stove for 6 more hours of labor. By 8 p.m., she was at her breaking point, exhaustion washing over her. She felt she could collapse and never rise again, but the guests were due to arrive at 10. She had to see it through. Kalen was already pacing their apartment with a glass of whiskey, getting an early start. "You have this handled right," he shouted toward the kitchen. "Yes, almost done," she called back. "It better be perfect," he warned. At 9:30, the buzzer sounded. The guests were early. Vian scrambled between the kitchen and the dining room, setting out the serving dishes. Her hair was frizzy, her apron stained, her hands shaking. At 5 minutes to 10, the house filled up. Miss Gwendolyn, Shanice and her family, and 3 of Kalen's sons with their wives. Vian was carrying out the last dish. "Where the hell are you, woman? Everybody is here," Kalen bellowed at her. His voice was so loud a few guests flinched. Vian placed the bowl on the table and slowly straightened her spine. She met her husband's gaze calmly. Unflinching with everything set, she faced him. "Sit down. Will you ever learn to be on time?" Kalen bellowed, obviously eager to prove to his friends who was the master of the house. "Kalen, settle down," Miss Gwendolyn interjected, before adding, "I warned you she was sluggish. You should have chosen Monique." Vian retreated silently to the kitchen. Shedding her apron and washing her hands, she glanced at her reflection in the hall mirror. A weary, older face gazed back at her. How had this happened? When had she transformed from a self-assured woman into this haunted, fading specters? She re-entered the living room, where guests were feasting, pouring drinks, and laughing. Not one person offered thanks or even glanced her way. Kalen was proposing a toast. "To business success and to my true brothers." "No one will raise a glass to me," Vian mused, sinking into her seat at the table's corner. The dinner was a boisterous affair. Her guests devoured the meal, praising the food, but lavished all their compliments upon Kalen. "Kalen, this is an excellent spread, my man. You've outdone yourself." He simply nodded, absorbing all of the undeserved praise, as though he had personally prepared every last dish. Around midnight, his friend Darnell, who was significantly intoxicated by then, erupted in laughter. "Hey, Kalon, perhaps it's time for a trade-in on the wife. At least mine is easy on the eyes. Yours is looking rather drab over there." A sudden hush fell over the table. Vian raised her eyes to her husband, waiting for him to speak, to stand up for her, to defend her just this once. Kalen only laughed. "Dude, come on now, Darnell. She's adequate, a good cook, and keeps a clean house. What more could a man possibly need?" The guests erupted in laughter, endorsing the cruel joke. Miss Gwendolyn offered a bitter smile. Shanice glanced at Vian with pity, but remained silent. As midnight struck, everyone rose, clinking their glasses and making wishes. Vian, however, made only a single wish. "Lord, please grant me strength." After midnight, the true torment commenced. The guests continued drinking, demanding she reheat more food. Fetch more ice, pour more tea, and serve dessert. Vian was reduced to a servant at her own party. At 1:30 in the morning, she found herself in the kitchen, standing over a mountain of filthy dishes. Her hands refused to obey her, and her vision began to blur. From behind the wall, the music pounded and laughter echoed. Hey, little bird, Kaylin shouted. Get some coffee out here and be quick about it. Vian set the kettle to boil, retrieved the cups, and arranged them on a tray with the detached precision of a robot. And then, it hit her. She would not endure one more day. It was enough. At 3 in the morning, the guests finally began to depart. Miss Gwendolen, on her way out, tossed over her shoulder, "Vian, the roast was a tad dry. Remember to baste it more next time." "Of course," Vian replied while thinking to herself, "there will not be a next time." Kaylin, thoroughly intoxicated, collapsed onto the bed and was snoring within a minute. Vian returned to the desolate kitchen, where she sat at the table staring into emptiness. Silence. At long last, silence. She pulled out her phone and dialed her daughter. "Mom." Imani's voice was heavy with sleep. "Why are you calling this late?" "Imani, my sweet girl, can I please come over?" Vian's voice quivered. "You mean for good?" A short pause, then, "Yes. I have been waiting for so long to hear you say that, Mom. You should come right now." "No, not immediately. I need to do something first, but it will be soon, very soon." "What are you planning, Mom?" Vian glanced towards the bedroom where her husband was sleeping. Her thoughts turned to the flash drive. "Concealed in the grits jar, baby girl. I'm carefully plotting sweet justice." On the morning of January 1st, Kaylin's voice boomed. "Vian, where's the headache medicine? My head is pounding." It was 2 in the afternoon. Vian sat in the kitchen, coffee in hand, fully dressed with her bags packed. She'd only slept for 3 hours yet felt remarkably alert. Her firm decision had fueled her with strength. "Vian, are you deaf?" She rose, grabbed a bottle of water and 2 ibuprofen tablets and carried them to him. Kaylin was sprawled on the couch, looking crumpled and puffy, stinking of old liquor. "Thanks, I guess you're good for something," he grumbled, gulping down the pills. "Man, I went too hard. This head feels like it's about to crack." "You'll be fine," Vian said calmly. Kaylin shot her a surprised look. Normally, she'd be silent or doting on him with sympathy. "What's gotten into you today?" "Nothing, it's just a regular day." "Fine, go make me some lunch. I need a steak, something greasy to absorb all this." "No." "What? No, I won't be cooking." "Then order some Uber Eats." Kaylin sat bolt upright, eyeing his wife with disbelief. "Are you giving me an attitude about last night? You tripping again, woman?" "No, Kaylin, I'm not tripping. I simply have things to get done." She turned on her heel and headed into the bedroom. From the closet, she retrieved a duffel bag and began packing the final items. Only the essentials. She would collect the rest later. Kaylin showed up in the doorway 10 minutes later as it dawned on him something was wrong. "What are you up to, Ka?" "Packing." "Where are you headed?" "To my daughter's for a couple of days." "You ask me first." "Ask you?" His voice became sharp and metallic. "I did not give you any permission." Vian paused, studying him with a long, evaluating stare. "I don't require your permission, Kaylin." "What do you mean you don't need it?" "But I'm your husband." "Unfortunately so," she said quietly and then zipped the bag. Kaylin stood frozen, obviously trying to process how to respond, before waving a hand dismissively. "Fine, go on then. Run to Imani. You'll spend 2 days crying, then you'll come running back. You always do." He strode away. Vian put her coat on, taking one final look around the apartment, their apartment that he had treacherously signed over to his own mother, and then walked out. Soon she vowed to reclaim what was rightfully hers. Imani greeted her at the door with an embrace. Imani lived in a 1-bedroom in Decatur. At 23, she was a logistics manager, fiercely independent and strong. Vian was so proud of her daughter. "Mama, you're finally here, I'm so happy." Imani embraced her tightly. "Please stay forever and to hell with him." "I am staying, baby, but first I have some work to do." They settled in at the kitchen table. Vian produced the flash drive from her purse. "Everything is on here, every one of his dirty dealings. There's the tax fraud, the counterfeit parts, those shady contracts, plus the deed to our condo, which is illegal as I never signed consent." Imani let out a low whistle. "Wow, Ma, you've been playing detective. Where on earth did you get all this stuff?" "I was with that man for 15 years. Did you think I wouldn't notice things?" Vian gave a tired smile. I just chose to stay quiet. I put up with it for years, but I am done now. So what's your next move? I'm going to dismantle his life just as methodically as he has dismantled mine. A hard, steely glint shone in Vian's eyes that Amani had never witnessed before. The first thing she did was contact her old colleague Zara, who after departing the accounting firm had pursued a law degree. They met at a Buckhead coffee shop the next day. Zara, I need your help. Certainly, Vian, what is happening? Vian spread out the documents. Zara examined them, her eyes widening. Vian, this is serious. This means 5 to 10 years of federal time, if this sees a courtroom. Do you want him imprisoned? Jail doesn't matter. I want to destroy his business, take my share of our assets, and walk away completely clean. Then here is the plan. Zara took out a notepad. We can challenge the deed transfer in court. We have grounds. The transaction occurred without your consent, which is illegal in Georgia. The condo was purchased during the marriage. It is marital property. The court will side with you. Good. For the business, half of that shop is yours by law, no matter if it's in his name. A marital asset. We will file for division of property. And these? Vian gestured to the fraud papers. Zara considered for a moment. That's the nuclear option. You could send it to the IRS. They would audit him, freeze his assets, and hit him with fines. You can use it as leverage in the divorce, or hold it in reserve. I want everything, Vian stated firmly. I want him to experience what it's like to lose it all. Zara nodded. Then let's devise a plan. The strategy was simple, yet elegant. First, attack his reputation and personal life. Make Kaylin anxious, force him to be sloppy, then strike the business. Finally seize everything in court. On January 3rd, Vian began her assault. Strike 1, his mistresses. She knew all about Tanisha, Keisha, and Ebony. Kaylin's phone held threads with all three, including photos. Vian had copied everything a month before. She created a fake Instagram account, a young woman named Destiny. Her profile appeared completely authentic. As Destiny, she messaged Tanisha directly. Hey, I'm not sure how to tell you this, but I think we're seeing the same man. Kaylin from Master Auto on Cascade. Here's the proof. She included screenshots of Kaylin's texts with Ebony, the sweet talk, intimate photos, all recent from December. Tanisha responded in just 10 minutes. What is this? Are you serious? That grimy mechanic. I'm sorry to say it, sis. Thought you should know. An hour later, Vian did the same thing with Keisha, revealing to her the texts with Tanisha and to Ebony, showing her the texts with Keisha. All three women became absolutely furious, and all three nearly at once bombarded Kaylin's phone with furious messages. Kaylin's phone started lighting up non-stop. Vian, sitting on Amani's balcony, pictured him scrambling, trying to deny everything and placate them all. It was nearly funny, but this was only the warm-up. On January 5th, Tanisha completely lost control and drove to the shop. She made a huge scene during the workday. Customers and the mechanics just stood there, with mouths agape as she screamed at Kaylin, calling him a liar and a dog. At one point, she even grabbed a wrench and hurled it right through the office window. Glass shattered everywhere. Someone was filming it. By evening, the video was circulating on the Atlanta Shade Room and local Facebook pages. Owner of Master Auto on Cascade. Caught cheating on 3 women at once, one trashes his shop. The comment section was brutal. Some laughed, others dragged Kaylin. The reputation of this serious businessman was starting to crack. Kaylin called Vian 10 times that day. She didn't answer. Strike 2. The business. On January 6th, still using a burner account, Vian wrote a detailed review. On the largest local community page, Black Business Atlanta, boasting 300,000 members. A warning: Master Auto on Cascade Road is swindling our community. The owner, Kalan Banks, uses fake parts, claims they are OEM, and inflates the price by 300%. I have the evidence: invoices for cheap overseas knockoffs and receipts billing our elders for genuine parts. Be careful. Ignore the low phone estimates. The final bill is never the same. spread the word. She included scans of the real documents. From Kalan's own files showing brake pads bought for $15 and sold to grandmothers for $150. The post exploded in just 2 hours. With 300 shares and thousands of comments, people began posting their own terrible experiences with his shop. One person commented they always felt something was wrong. Many thanked her for the heads up. That evening, the shop's phone was ringing non-stop, with furious customers. Many demanded their money back and threatened legal action. Kalan tried to defend himself, calling it all slander. However, the receipts were irrefutable. By January 7th, customer traffic had vanished. All appointments for the week were canceled. No one would go near a shop with so much controversy. Kalan was frantic. He started calling Vian 20 times a day and sent texts. Vian, please come back. I need you. This is stupid, stop playing. Where are you? Imani isn't talking. Vian read and deleted each one. Strike 3, the IRS. On January 8th came the final blow. Vian collected every document on his tax evasion and placed them in a thick envelope. She mailed it anonymously to the IRS whistleblower office. Posing as a concerned citizen, she laid out a detailed map of every single scheme Kalan had used to evade taxes for the past 5 years. The total was significant, around $150,000 in unpaid taxes. Just 3 days later, on January 11th, the auditors showed up. The feds meant business. They confiscated computers, froze his accounts, and launched a thorough audit. Kalan's face went pale as a ghost. On January 9th, Vian formally filed for divorce. She went down to the courthouse and filed the papers citing irreconcilable differences. At the same time, Zara filed a suit for asset division and to challenge the fraudulent property deed transfer. A court server delivered the papers to Kalan on January 10th. He called Vian instantly. Are you out of your mind? A divorce for what? Vian answered for the first time all week. For 15 years of your disrespect, Kalan. What disrespect? I always took care of you. You called me your little bird, a housekeeper. That was a joke. You bought me a mop for my birthday. I was only playing around. You were with 3 other women at once. A long silence. Then quietly, who told you? I knew all of it, Kalan. Everything. I am not a fool, even if you always treated me like one. Vian, we need to talk. Just come home. No, we will speak in court. With that, she hung up. Her hands trembled not with fear, but from an overwhelming wave of emotion, freedom, relief, and pure joy. The following 2 weeks were a whirlwind. The IRS completed their initial audit and slammed Kalan with fines and back taxes adding up to almost $250,000. Master Auto was on its last legs. His revenue plummeted by 80%. Kalan desperately tried to save it with ads and lower prices, but his reputation was destroyed. His mistresses sent their parting shots via text. Tanisha wrote, "You're a broke joke now. Lose my number." Then Keisha and Ebony blocked him. His friends disappeared as soon as they heard about the IRS. Darnell and his crew ignored all his calls. Nobody wants to be connected to a man with a federal investigation. Kalan found himself isolated. He called Vian daily, his texts shifting from rage, "You've wrecked my life," to desperate pleas of, "Vian, my love, please. I was wrong. Let's begin again." But Vian never answered. On January 25th, he appeared at Imani's apartment complex. He pressed the intercom. "Imani, it's me. I have to speak with your mother." "She doesn't want to see you." "Imani, please, just 5 minutes." Imani looked to her mother. Vian gave a nod. "Let him come up. Let him see that I am not broken." Kalan entered the 3rd-floor apartment. He looked absolutely awful, gaunt, unshaven, and in a rumpled jacket. He'd aged 5 years in just 3 weeks. Vian answered the door. She stood there perfectly calm, composed, dressed in fresh clothes with subtle makeup. Kalan stared, hardly recognizing this woman. Where was his defeated wife? Before him was a self-assured woman with ice water in her veins. He moved to step closer, but she simply raised her hand. "Stop. You get 5 minutes." I was a fool. A complete fool. "Please, can you forgive me?" His voice was breaking. "I know that I hurt you, said cruel things, and failed to appreciate you, but we can fix this. Come back to me. I'll change, I swear on my life." Vian just stared at him. "I love you," Kalen suddenly blurted out, with tears streaming down his face. "I mean it. I'm just an idiot. I never knew how to show you." 15 years, Kalen," Vian said softly. "For 15 years I waited to hear just one kind word. Just once for you to defend me when your mother insulted me, or a single thank you for the meals I made. I know that I understand now. I've changed." "No, Kalen, you haven't changed. You're simply terrified because you lost your personal servant, the unpaid maid who put up with all of it. That's not it. That is precisely it." Her tone became steel. "If your business was thriving, if you still had your women on the side, you wouldn't even know my name right now. Vian, get out." She faced the door. "And never come back." Kalen collapsed to his knees right there in the hall. "I am begging you, please come back." Vian gazed down at him. This pitiful man on the floor was her husband, the same man who controlled her for a decade and a half. "It's too late," she stated, then firmly closed the door. She could hear his sobbing for a moment, then his footsteps fading down the stairs. Imani embraced her mother. "Ma, you're a boss. I am so proud of you." Vian wiped away a stray tear. It wasn't from sadness, it was sheer relief. "I am proud of me too, honey." The first court date for dividing their property was February 10th. Vian arrived alongside Zara. Kalen appeared with his attorney, a young man who seemed quite nervous, and also Miss Gwendolyn. Miss Gwendolyn strode into the courtroom like a queen, with her nose held high. She spotted Vian and scoffed loudly enough to be heard in the back. "Well, look who's here trying to take what isn't hers." Vian showed no reaction at all. She faced her mother-in-law and spoke in a clear, low voice. "Miss Gwendolyn, should you insult me again before these witnesses, I will sue you for defamation of character, and I will be successful. So mind what you say." The older woman froze mid-scoff. Vian had never once talked back. Her mouth opened to snap back, but Zara stepped forward, smiling coldly. "I am Vian's attorney. Please consider this a formal notice about the legal consequences for slander. Continue, and we will simply add you to the docket." Miss Gwendolyn grew pale and said no more. The judge, a black woman in her 50s with a stern expression, began the proceedings. "This is the matter of Banks versus Banks. Plaintiff Vian Banks is suing to void a deed of gift and divide their marital assets." Defendant Kalen Banks objected. Zara rose to her feet. "Your Honor, as evidence, the condominium at 48 Peachtree Industrial was acquired in 2013 using joint funds, making it marital property. In 2023, Kalan Banks transferred this deed to his mother, Gwendolyn Banks. Spousal consent was never acquired, which is a violation of the Georgia Code." The judge examined the documents. "Can you prove consent was not obtained?" "Indeed, Your Honor. My client maintains she never signed anything. Moreover, we hired a handwriting specialist. The signature on the deed is a clear forgery." Kalen shot to his feet. "That is a lie. She signed it and just forgot." "Mr. Banks, be seated," the judge ordered sharply. "You will speak only when addressed." Kalen's lawyer attempted to object. "Your Honor, 2 years have passed. Expert analysis." Zara cut in, pushing a report over the table. "Forgery. This transaction is therefore void." For 2 hours the hearing continued. Zara methodically presented her case. Purchase documents, bank records of joint payments, the forgery analysis. Kalen's attorney had no rebuttal. The judge ordered the deed transfer be immediately nullified. The condominium was thus returned to the marital estate, subject to a 50-50 partition. Miss Gwendolyn was granted 30 days to vacate. After court, Kalan followed Vian out to the parking lot. "Are you serious? You're going to put my mother on the street." "I'm not putting your mother out. I'm reclaiming what's rightfully mine." Vian continued walking toward Zara's car. She is 70 years old? Where will she go? When you signed that house over to her? Did you consider where I might go if we ever divorced? Vian whirled around. No, Kaylin, you assumed I would never leave you. You figured I would just endure the abuse forever. Your mother isn't blameless. She took part in my humiliation for 15 long years. She encouraged you. Vian, please, Kaylin pleaded pathetically. Take half the business, just leave the condo. I am taking half the business and half of the condo. You're so vindictive, Kaylin screamed. I provided for you for 15 years. You lived very well. I was your unpaid domestic for 15 years, she stated, staring straight into his eyes. You did not provide for me. You merely purchased my silence. Now I'm no longer quiet and it is time to pay. She entered the car and Zara drove away. 1 week later, the IRS issued its final judgment. If Kaylin failed to pay, the $250,000 asset seizure would commence in 3 months. He did not have the funds. Master Otto was gone. He attempted to secure a loan, but with a federal lien, no bank would even consider him. His friends just shrugged. Sorry, man, times are tough. Only his mother still stood by him, but she spent more time complaining than actually assisting Kalan. How did you allow this to happen? We've lost it all because of that woman. You should have just listened to me and married Monique. Mama, just be quiet. By the middle of March, Kalan was completely overwhelmed. He owed his mechanics back pay, rent on the shop, the power bill. In the final settlement hearing, Zara demanded 50% of the business value, or a cash buyout for $100,000. I don't have it, Kalan yelled back. The business is totally worthless. That is not our problem, Zara stated. The law requires half. The judge granted him 2 months to make the payment. He could not, so Vian proposed a solution. She liquidated her stake in the business, selling it to a third party. That individual was Marcus Thorne, Kaylin's fiercest competitor and the owner of Thorne Auto Group. He had coveted Kaylin's location for years. Vian sold her share to Thorne for a mere $50,000. She needed cash immediately, not later. Thorne became a co-owner of Master Auto and promptly began applying pressure on Kaylin. Look, Kaylin, this business is bleeding out. You have tax debt. Sell your half to me for $20,000 before the Fed sees it for zero. Kaylin held out for 2 weeks. But the IRS was impatient. Agents arrived to take inventory of the equipment. Kaylin caved. He sold his last share to Thorne for next to nothing, just enough to keep the feds at bay for 1 month. 15 years of his labor vanished. Miss Gwendolyn was forced to sell her little house, her home, before the condo, simply to help cover a portion of Kaylin's overwhelming debts, and had to rent a small 1-bedroom apartment in a tougher part of town. You've disgraced the family, she shrieked at her son. Kaylin offered no reply. He had no fight left in him. He was hired as a mechanic at his old shop, now entirely owned by Marcus Thorne. His wage was $20 an hour, an insult compared to his former income. He took a room in a local boarding house. He was living from one paycheck to the next, most of it garnished by the IRS. That was April. Vian, however, began a new life. With proceeds from the condo sale and the buyout of the business, she purchased a charming 2-bedroom townhouse on a peaceful Smyrna street. It was luminous, open, and hers alone. She landed a remote position as a senior accountant for a company based in Chicago. Her salary was $85,000 a year with a flexible schedule. For the first time in a decade, she was earning her own money, accountable to no one. The feeling was liberating. In late March, she met Isaiah by complete chance at a bookstore. Vian was in the African American literature section, her hand reaching out for a copy of The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. A man in his 50s with a kind face and gentle eyes reached for that same shelf. Pardon me, he said with a smile. A Baldwin fan. Always. Vian smiled back. Excellent taste. My name is Isaiah. I'm a high school literature teacher. Vian. They began to talk. It turned out Isaiah was newly divorced after 20 years. He adored jazz theater and good books. He was reserved, thoughtful, and calm. After exchanging numbers, coffee led to dinner, and those dinners led to seeing plays. Gradually and with care, something new started to blossom. Isaiah was Kalon's polar opposite. He would ask Vian for her opinion. He listened when she spoke, held doors open, and thanked her for the little things. "You have such a brilliant mind," he remarked after they had debated a book. A mind, her mind, after being called a bird for 15 years. In May, Vian held a housewarming party. She invited Amani and Zara, a few old girlfriends she had reconnected with, and Isaiah. Her little townhouse was filled with laughter and genuine warmth. Vian prepared a feast not out of any obligation or fear, but from a pure desire to nourish the people she loved. To Vian, Amani toasted, raising her glass, "The strongest woman I know." To Vian, everyone in the room cheered. Vian looked at their joyful faces and felt a warmth bloom inside her chest. This was finally it. This was the happiness she had always dreamed about. Not diamonds, not Ferraris, not status, but simply respect, peace, the very right to breathe. After her guests had departed, Isaiah stayed behind to help. "You really don't have to," Vian said. "I want to help." He began, then took a sponge and started washing dishes. They worked together in comfortable silence. Isaiah then slid his arm gently around her shoulders. "Are you happy?" "For the first time in ages, yes." He softly kissed her forehead. There were no demands, and Vian knew this is what she deserved. Toward the end of May, Vian crossed paths with Kalon. She was heading to meet Isaiah, having stopped at the mall for a gift when she spotted him by the food court. His back was toward her as he studied the menu prices on the wall. He looked older, his shoulders slumped. Dressed in a cheap jacket and worn sneakers, he wasn't the confident man she'd married. Vian could have just kept walking, but instead she approached Kalon. As he turned, his face flooded with shock, pain, and immense shame. "Vian, hey." They stood looking at one another, two strangers. "How have you been doing?" he asked softly. "Wonderful," she answered with honesty. "I am doing wonderfully." He just nodded, looking away. I'm glad, truly. And what about you?" "Me?" He chuckled bitterly. "I'm just living. Fixing cars, paying off debts, renting a room." "I see." A silence fell. "You look good," Kalon said. She was radiant. Vian had transformed. The stress weight was gone. Her hair was in natural twists, and her clothes matched her new energy. Her eyes were full of life. "Thank you." "Are you with someone?" The question lingered between them. "I am," Vian replied. "A good man." Kalon nodded, rubbing his face wearily. "I understand now, Vian. It's too late now, but I get it. You were the very best thing in my life, and I just crushed you." "Yes." "Can you ever forgive me?" He looked her in the eyes, his gaze begging not for them to get back together. "I'm not asking for that, just forgiveness so I can have some peace." Vian considered it, reflecting on 15 years. The belittling, the insults, the affairs, the betrayal. "Kalon, I already forgave you," she said with composure. "But that forgiveness is for my own peace, not for yours. I released the anger so I no longer hurt." Hope began to flicker in Kalon's eyes. "So maybe." "But that doesn't mean I am returning to that nightmare," she interrupted. "Forgiveness doesn't erase the consequences. You got what you deserved, and I got what I earned, my freedom. We're even now. Goodbye, Kalon." She turned and walked toward the exit. "Vian," he called out desperately. "Not even one chance." She glanced back over her shoulder a final time. "You had a chance for 15 years, and you used it up." She kept on walking. Another 6 months passed. Vian lived, worked, and loved. Her relationship with Isaiah progressed slowly and steadily, both of them cautious and healing. But each day that passed confirmed that this was real. Isaiah never raised his voice, never once criticized, and always spoke her name with respect. When she cooked for him, he'd kiss her shoulder and whisper, "Thank you, beautiful." When she shared an opinion, he would say, "You are right, I had not thought of that." This was happiness, a simple, black and honest happiness. Imani absolutely adored him. Ma, he's a king, so you hold on to him. I am baby girl. Kaylin never called her again. He disappeared from her life entirely. Vian heard through the grapevine that even his own mother had stopped talking to him, blaming him for the loss of her condo. Word was they saw him in dive bars drinking all alone. Vian didn't feel any pity. She dedicated 15 years to pity, but that account was now settled. December arrived with the holidays, yet it was such a different kind of winter. Vian and Isaiah decided to welcome the new year at her home, joined by Imani and her new beau. Come December 31st, all four were bustling in the kitchen. Isaiah chopped peppers as Imani prepared the cornbread mix. Imani's boyfriend was setting out the glasses while Vian guided the activity, laughing and radiant. "Ma, are you happy?" Imani quietly asked when the men stepped away. "Insanely, sweetheart. So happy. You deserve all of this, you really do." Vian held her daughter close. "I've realized happiness isn't possessing everything. Happiness means being respected, being true to yourself, being free." At midnight, they held champagne flutes. The table looked beautiful, filled with delicious food but without any stress. Vian cooked from the heart, not from a fear of judgment. "To a new life," Imani toasted. "To a new life." They all echoed, clinking their glasses. Isaiah put his arm around Vian and kissed her temple gently. "Happy New Year, sweetheart." "Happy New Year." In her pocket, her phone buzzed. Vian pulled it out, saw the name Kalon, and smiled. She declined the call and laid the phone face down. "Who was on the phone?" Isaiah asked. "The past?" Vian responded, "That's all." And she raised her glass, gazing at her daughter's happy expression, her tranquil home, her brand new life. For 15 years, a captive; for 15 years, a servant. Yet now she was just Vian, free, strong, and happy. And that was the most wonderful thing she could possibly be. Did you enjoy the story, and what city are you listening from? Let's connect down in the comments section. If you liked this story, you can show your support with a super thanks, which helps me bring you many more stories like it. I truly appreciate your wonderful support. I'm eager to read your thoughts on the story. You'll now see 2 other life stories on your screen that I absolutely recommend. There's plenty more on my channel, so don't forget to hit subscribe. See you in the next life story. With all my love and respect.